Chinese People's Liberation Army or PLA will retreat to its base east of Finger 8 on the north bank of Pangong Lake. The Indian Army will move back to its permanent position near Finger 3 and neither side will patrol the contested areas in between until an agreement is reached through future talks, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh told Parliament on Thursday, explaining the nuances of a disengagement plan hammered out by the two armies to reduce military tensions in eastern Ladakh. Until now, rival soldiers have been deployed eyeball to eyeball on the Finger 4 ridge line at heights of almost 18,000 feet. In a detailed statement on the situation in eastern Ladakh, Singh told Rajyasabha and later Lok Sabha that the next meeting between senior military commanders of the two armies to discuss other issues will take place 48 hours after complete disengagement in the Pangong Lake area, both north and south banks. Singh told both houses that India did not concede anything during the military talks and added that there were still some outstanding issues regarding deployment and patrolling at some other points along the LAC, and these will be the focus of further discussions with the Chinese side. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the fragile situation at the LAC. Joining me on the program today are Prabhu Dayal, former ambassador, Major General Dhruv C. Katoch, retired, Director, India Foundation, and Harshvi Pant, Head Strategic Studies, Observer Research Foundation. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. General, let me begin the program with you. A lot has been made about how India has lost out on territory, especially in the region, to China. The Defence Minister has very categorically stated that we have not conceded anything. Take us through, the fragile situation that really exists right now at the LAC and what really goes into these kind of military talks.
Thank you, Frank. First, let me start with what exactly is meant by losing territory to the Chinese. I think that we need to understand that the Aksai Chin area, we lost to the Chinese a very, very long time ago. That was in the 50s itself, and they built a road through that. And then a part of occupied Kashmir was given by the Pakistanis, the 5,000 plus square kilometers, to the Chinese. Subsequently, post the 62 conflict, we had where the ceasefire took place between the two sides. We came to what is called the line of actual control. And various talks have taken place. But unfortunately, on the ground, this particular line of actual control has never been defined or demarcated or even maps exchanged. So what we are looking at is where the Indian Army is deployed, wherever it is deployed, whether it is in Arunachal or whether it is in Ladakh, from those deployment areas, it has a perception that the Indian territory, the line of actual control, runs up to this particular point. And from where the Chinese are deployed, they have a perception that it runs up to their particular point. Now, in between is that area where, in between the two forces, is where all the problems lie. So whenever we see Chinese patrols coming into that area, we look on it as an intrusion by the Chinese into our area. And when our patrols go into the same area, likewise, the Chinese view it as an intrusion. But on the ground, when we look at any territory per se lost, that I would think it refers to any posts or any positions which are held being lost. Now, that has not really been the case. What has really happened over the years, and I'm not just talking about since post-62, I'm talking about the period for the, say, last 25 to 30 years. What has been happening is that the Chinese have been making very gradual encroachments into that area, especially into the areas which were not held. Now, the problem was that we didn't have any roads leading up to the line of actual control, whereas the Chinese have built the roads right up to that line. So when they would intrude, say, 500 meters or 200 meters, these intrusions over the years became big intrusions. Now, what has happened in the last 4 to 5 years, I would say, a great deal of stress has been laid by the government of India to actually build our infrastructure forward, and there are better observation facilities available. So now when when they try any of these attempts to do what is popularly called salami slicing, they are confronted by the Indian forces. Now, this is what we saw in Doklam. This is actually what happened. So when they tried to make a road through Bhutanese territory, then we stopped them. And the face-off took place, which took about 2 months to resolve, 2 to 3 months to resolve. Now, the same salami slicing again they did this year, and they took advantage of the fact of the COVID, the Chinese COVID, which had spread. So because of that, the Indian troops, which generally carry out their exercises in this area, they did not carry out their exercise or that forward deployment because the Chinese used to do it. But we didn't do it this time because of the COVID. And that gave them an opportunity to occupy certain of those unheld areas. And that led to the clash in Galwan. Right. Now, post that, when they were forced to withdraw, and then, of course, the killings took place, we lost 20 of our soldiers. And in the retaliation, the Chinese, I believe, as per one reports, the Russian reports, they lost 45. The American reports say they lost more than 100 men. But this is what really is the ground situation. Now, when we look into one of the sectors, there are many sectors, but I only want to talk about Pangong Tso. When we are looking at the Pangong Tso sector, north of Pangong Tso, we talk of areas called Fingers 1 to Fingers 8.
Right.
Now, at Finger 3, we have got our post, which has been a long-standing post. And east of Finger 8, the Chinese have their post, which is again a long-standing post. Now, what the Chinese have done over a period of time, especially during the Kargil conflict when the troops weren't there, they built a road which went right up to Finger 4, from Finger 8 to Finger 4.
Sure.
So when we are looking at what really happened is they have the advantage of communications, and subsequently they build up their post in Finger 5. Now the Indian side told them to go back. So this is really what the situation is, that they have set up their establishment at Finger 5, whereas they should be behind Finger 8. We went up to Finger 4. Both the troops are now facing off at Finger 4, as you had mentioned.
Sure.
And now the pullback has to start. So we will move back from Finger 4 to Finger 3. And they will move back from Finger 4 to, they will dismantle what they have done in Finger 5 and go back to the east of Finger 8.
Right.
Now, just one small thing. When we are looking to the south of Pangong Tso, there we occupied the ridge called the famous Kailash Ridge, which overlooks the complete area.
Right.
And that perturbed the Chinese. And then a lot of mobile warfare took place, mobile elements. That means the tanks were deployed by both the sides. So what we have seen already withdrawing as of now is the tanks from both sides have withdrawn on the southern side. But I think the withdrawal on the northern side is going to take a long period of time because there is no trust. There is a great deal of trust deficit.
Sure.
The Indian military cannot trust the Chinese. So everything will have to be verified, and we are waiting for a very, very long winter for this particular process. Frank.
Okay. All right, General. Thank you for taking us through the process there and taking us through the terrain too of this particular fragile region or territory. All right, Ambassador, let me bring you in now. So the military talks are on. The military is doing its bit. In such a situation, what is the role of diplomats and diplomacy?
Well, Indian diplomacy has worked overtime to make it clearer to countries which surround China that it is going to be on them also in one way or another. In other words, we have tried to sound out the rest of the world about the dangers which emanate from China, and we have sensitized them to what we have done to take on the Chinese dragon. Now, in particular, we have been at pains to emphasize to the new Biden administration that China cannot be trusted. Now, if you recall, China was waiting for Biden to take over and was expecting Joe Biden to take a softer line towards the People's Republic of China. That has not happened. President Biden has put in place a new administration which is going to be tough on China. He has recently, just 2 days ago, told a group of senators in an official meeting that he needs to upgrade US infrastructure because the danger from China needs to be confronted head on. He said, in fact, that unless we are serious, China will eat our lunch. In other words, The dangers from China are becoming clearer to the rest of the world. Indian diplomacy has been very actively engaged in sensitizing other countries in this regard. The Code has taken place